5 minutes, Claire. Starting now. My father-in-law, Richard Hale, CEO of Hale Vertex, said it like he was hitting start on a microwave. The conference room went so quiet I could hear the soft hum of the HVAC fighting August heat. Slide 17 glowed behind me, a clean green line showing 6 years of cost savings I negotiated, implemented, and defended. It looked almost smug. Someone had placed a cardboard box at my feet. Helpful. Premeditated. Thank you, I said, and meant it in a way none of them would understand yet. 12 executives sat around the table with faces arranged into neutral masks. Through the glass walls, the 15th floor had frozen mid-keystroke, mid-sip, mid-whisper. Outside the room, my team's desks formed a grid of monitors and plants and small lives, graduation photos, kindergarten drawings, a ceramic cactus someone had won at a fair. If you're going to be executed, there are worse stages. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, said Nicholas Hale, Richard's golden child, my husband, tapping the crystal face of his watch like he wanted the room to respect Swiss engineering. The gesture was pure theater. He didn't look at me. Nia Black, the COO-in-waiting I'd been mentoring, reclined in my chair. My chair. She examined her nails with the kind of bored elegance you learn from too many networking brunches. Her laptop was open to our department's budget forecasts. Files she should not have been able to access. I picked up the USB drive I'd taped under my desk years ago, a contingency born of insomnia and pattern recognition. It clicked into my palm with the oddly soothing precision only plastic can offer. Into the box it went, followed by the team photo from our last product launch, tired eyes, greasy pizza, real smiles, then a battered mug with a chip in the rim that always found my lip like a homing beacon. 3 minutes, Nicholas announced. If a metronome could smirk, it would sound like that. I should explain how I ended up with a box and a countdown. It started 3 Sundays earlier at the Hale estate, a place where money is a cent and chairs scrape quietly on marble. Family dinner always felt like a play set in a museum, heavy crystal, heavy topics, light empathy. I brought a lattice crust apple pie because Richard liked tradition. My mother-in-law, Lillian, praised it the way people praise hotel art. So lovely that we have dessert, she said, to no one in particular. Record quarter, Richard announced, lifting his tumbler toward the chandelier. We dominate because I recognize talent and put it where it belongs. His hand landed on Nicholas's shoulder, and my husband glowed like a moon borrowing light. I watched him watch his father. It felt like déjà vu and prophecy. No one mentioned the Henderson rescue I had pulled off 2 nights prior, or the Morrison contract I'd revived after 3 lost weekends, or the server rebuild after a power surge that should have been impossible. Lillian leaned toward me with diamonds that could make payroll for a mid-sized department. You look tired, dear, she murmured. Balance is everything for a woman in leadership. I swallowed bland salmon and the retort that wanted out. I was tired. 36 hours into an emergency. But explaining that would confirm the narrative that I was overwhelmed. That word would return like a bad penny. Tuesday mornings with Nicholas had devolved into a ritual, him wrestling the fancy espresso machine his parents bought us, doom-scrolling sports, producing coffee that tasted like burnt pennies. Big day, he asked, 2 weeks before everything detonated. Dad says Nia's been impressive. Staying late. Taking initiative. I typed without looking at him. Nia arrived at 9:30 and left on the dot at 5 o'clock. I'd been training her because Richard said she just needs mentoring and someone to show her how we do things. So I did. I opened my playbook. I explained architecture and incident protocols. I answered her increasingly forensic questions. Who has admin access? Where are the backups? How do you handle a hot failover under load? I thought she was curious. She was building a case. 7 days before the firing, our data infrastructure needed an emergency migration. 40 terabytes. 8-hour window. 0 margin for error. It's the kind of night that earns or erases careers. Everything that could go wrong raised its hand first. Corrupted snapshots. A router deciding it no longer believed in DHCP. A breaker that tripped like it had a grudge. I called my team. Logan arrived first, still wearing the paper wristband from his daughter's dance recital. He pinned the program to his monitor like a promise to keep. Priya slid in next, whispering an apology to her husband about their anniversary dinner, then dove into code with a calm that felt like oxygen. Marcus and Sarah came with the twins from DevOps, who finish each other's comments on Git the way other twins finish each other's sentences. We built a bunker out of laptops, cables, and cold lo mein. At 2 a.m. Marcus said, "We're the most functional dysfunctional family I've ever had." Sarah answered without looking up, "At least we chose each other." It landed like a blessing disguised as a joke. We moved data without losing faith, or clients, or sleep we'd already lost. Morning came mean and bright and nobody outside our room would ever know how close we'd come to the edge. 2 days later, an email arrived. From Nia. To me. But not for me. Richard, per our discussion, I've stabilized the Henderson situation. Client impressed with my crisis leadership. We should discuss restructuring. Claire seems overwhelmed lately. Henderson. The account I'd personally dragged back from the cliff while Nia posted wine tastings to her story. I forwarded the email to my personal address on instinct. Not malice. Survival. Then I sat in my home office in a coffee-stained blouse, and I understood something ugly and useful. Dedication looks like weakness to people who've never had to earn a life. The morning of my execution felt wrong from the elevator. The security guard who normally traded dad jokes with me avoided my eyes. The 15th floor sounded like it was holding its breath. When I walked into the conference room to prep my presentation, the one about our 340% efficiency gain, Nia was already there. In my seat, laptop open to spreadsheets that belonged on a server behind two-factor and a wall of policy. "Good morning," she said, "sugar on stainless steel. Richard asked me to review these. You don't mind, do you?" That was not a question. "How did you get access?" I asked. For a second, her smile slipped and I saw the triumph under it. Temporary admin privileges. To assist with the transition. Transition hovered between us like a diagnosis you Google at 3 a.m. The executives trickled in with expressions that were either guilt or indigestion. David from finance clutched his tablet like a flotation device. Margaret, our legal director, sat straighter than usual, white-knuckling a legal pad. No one poured coffee. I started anyway. Metrics. Wins. The architecture roadmap. My voice was even. My pulse was not. Slide 17 blinked to life. The door didn't open. It detonated. Richard's tie was crooked. His fury filled the room at a volume the walls had heard before. He crossed the space in 3 strides and slammed his hand into the table. Coffee leapt. Margaret didn't move to save her notes. "You have 5 minutes to clear your desk," he said. For a full heartbeat, the words lived in the air without meaning. Then they found me. I set down the clicker like it might bruise. This wasn't spontaneous. It was staged. The box, the files, the silence. Orchestrated humiliation with great lighting. Here's the thing 20 years in tech taught me, the moment people think they've won is the moment they're most exposed. I started packing. Efficiently. Deliberately. The way I plan a migration. Backup drive. Project binders. Photo. Mug. The small geography of a life lived at a desk. Outside the glass, a ripple started. Logan stood up at his desk with his bag already over his shoulder. He didn't look at me. He looked at Richard and then at the elevator. Priya stood. Marcus stood. Sarah stood. The twins slid their laptops into sleeves with identical movements like a mirrored scene. One by one, chairs pushed back. The sound built, a soft storm of fabric, zippers, and decision. 2 minutes, Nicholas said, but the authority had thinned. He turned to see what I was seeing and color drained from his face so fast it made him look unwell. Nia's smile faltered. David's thumbs were flying over his calculator like it could tell the future. Margaret's phone was in her hand now, her mouth a hard line. I lifted the box. It was heavier than pride and lighter than regret. Security arrived because policy says it must. Tom and Derek. I'd brought them coffee on night shifts. I knew Derek's daughter's softball schedule better than he did. Sorry about this, Tom murmured. You're doing your job, I said. So am I. We stepped into the open office. The sound that followed us was a chorus of laptops closing and bags lifted. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just steady. When we reached the elevator, there were 22 of us. Tom stopped walking. 15 years, he said. Never seen anything like it. The elevator doors closed on faces I knew better than I knew my own. Phones started buzzing like a swarm. Messages from clients with question marks that felt like sirens. A Slack channel screenshot, Exodus across the top, member count ticking up like a stock on Good News. We spilled into sunlight that made the day look overexposed and unreal. The receptionist stood. The maintenance supervisor paused mid-mop like a witness who will be believed. Somewhere, someone started clapping. It spread. It wasn't applause for me. It was relief shaped like sound. I drove home in silence, the box seat belted beside me, the clock on the dashboard advancing in clean minutes. Nicholas's car was in the driveway. Tuesdays and Thursdays he worked from home, which meant spreadsheets and calls with his father and time for the gym. A luxury no one else in my department had. Dad called, he sat at the door, laptop tucked under his arm, face working through expressions like channels you flip past. He says you lost it. Says you were unstable. Crying. I set the box down on the ornate table his mother had gifted us because it matched nothing and everything about that family. I opened my phone and pulled up Nia's email. I handed it to him. He read it twice. Jaw tight, the inherited tell. When did she send this? 3 weeks ago. She meant to send it to your father. She sent it to me. And you didn't tell me? Would you have believed me? Or would you have said Nia's eager and Dad has a plan? He didn't answer. He reached for his keys instead. I need to think. He left. The door clicked with the kind of punctuation that ends a chapter. My phone rang. Unknown number. Please don't hang up, whispered Margaret from legal. I'm in the executive bathroom. Your contract, Richard didn't read the hostile termination clause. We reviewed it 6 years ago. The humiliation multiplier alone makes your severance $800,000. With witnesses and documented harassment, it's more. Why are you telling me this? Because in an hour Richard will realize what he's done, and when he does he'll blame me. He always does. I have documentation. Meet me tomorrow. Somewhere no one from Halevertex goes. We hung up. A message popped in from Dylan, a screenshot of a Slack channel before IT killed it. Exodus. 247 people in 5 minutes. Another ping, 3 recruiters. Subject lines like heard what happened and let's talk. And then a short email from Catherine Walsh, the VC Richard had insulted openly in a pitch meeting. Your team's loyalty is worth more than his balance sheet, she wrote. Let's build. At 9 p.m., the doorbell rang. Lillian stood on my porch with a manila folder in her hands and makeup smudged into a human being instead of a persona. May I come in? She asked, finally using my name when she did. I need to show you what my husband has done. Not today. For decades. I stepped aside. The apple pie dish sat drying on the rack. In that ordinary kitchen light, a dynasty began to crack. Lillian sat at my kitchen table like someone sitting in a confessional. She placed the manila folder between us, her diamond bracelet catching the low light. Richard fired his own brother this way, she began. 10 minutes to clear his office. That was 20 years ago. The family hasn't spoken since. Inside the folder were board minutes, copies of old emails, HR notes that looked too deliberate to be accidents. He did it to you because he's done it before, she said. Because humiliation is how he asserts control. Her voice trembled once, then steadied. I told myself it was strength. But it's cruelty. And watching him destroy you, someone who saved his company, made me see who I've been protecting all this time. She slid one more paper across the table. If you decide to fight, this will help. After she left, I didn't sleep. The house felt too quiet. My phone lit up at 2:06 a.m. Margaret again. Nia destroyed everything, she whispered. She tried to access the database to prove she could handle it alone. She deleted it. All of it. I sat up. Define all. 17 years of client data. Gone. 50 million in losses, minimum. He's been screaming for hours. Silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Margaret, I said, document everything. I already am, she replied. You should, too. By dawn, Halevertex was on fire. Not literally, just reputationally. Clients were pulling contracts. The stock had fallen 12%. Tech blogs were circling like vultures. Nicholas came home around 7, eyes red, shirt wrinkled. The database is gone, he said. Dad wants you to sign an NDA. He'll pay the $800,000 Margaret mentioned. You just, make this go away. I looked at him for a long time. You want me to protect him from himself? He could lose everything, Nicholas said. He already did. I stood. And you helped. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The silence was final. By noon, my living room had turned into a command center. 22 laptops. Power cords everywhere. Logan had coffee brewing, Priya was sketching a phoenix on a napkin. Phoenix Digital, she said, smiling faintly. New name. New life. Marcus secured the domain. The twins set up infrastructure on their personal servers. Within hours, we were a company, barely legal, entirely alive. At 4:47 p.m., Catherine Walsh arrived at my doorstep wearing confidence like armor. $3.5 million, she said without preamble. Seed funding. I want 20% and a board seat. Logan nearly dropped his laptop. You haven't even seen our plan. I've seen 22 people follow a leader out of a burning building, she said. That's the only plan I need. That night, while pizza boxes piled high, our future began in the echo of loss. I watched my team, my family of choice, turn betrayal into blueprint, exhaustion into momentum. Halevertex was collapsing. But something better was already rising from its ashes. 3 days later, Phoenix Digital moved into a warehouse that smelled faintly of dust, cleaner, and new beginnings. It was nothing like the glass towers of Halevertex, no marble, no catered lunches, no hierarchy. Just open space, bad lighting, and possibility. By the end of the week, the smell of pizza had replaced the cleaner. The Morrison twins wired a network across the ceiling, Marcus designed the website, and Priya turned the napkin sketch into a real logo, a bird rising from fire. A little dramatic, Logan joked, but earned. We didn't just have a name. We had purpose. The following Monday, Catherine returned with 2 other investors and her usual efficiency. You've got $5 million in funding and a valuation north of 17, she said, walking through the warehouse with a clipboard. Now build. We did. Clients called one by one, starting with Henderson Industries. We're done with Halevertex, Richard Henderson said flatly over Zoom. Contracts follow competence, not names. 3 more followed by end of day, Morrison, Patterson, Chin Tech. $30 million in annual business, gone from Richard's empire overnight. Stocks plunged. TechCrunch called it the Hale collapse. Nicholas texted once, Dad wants to apologize. There's an offer waiting. Corner office, raise, benefits restored. I didn't respond. There are no second chances for someone who weaponizes humiliation. That evening, he appeared at our warehouse, standing awkwardly near the door with a bouquet of red roses, the kind I'm allergic to. Dad was wrong, he said. He'll give you your position back. I stared at the flowers wilting in his hands. He thinks this is about a job? It's a good offer. It's a distraction, I said quietly. And you still don't get it. He looked smaller when he left, like the weight of his father's name was finally crushing instead of carrying him. The next morning, Margaret arrived with a banker's box and eyes that had seen too much. I want to be your chief legal officer, she said, setting it on my desk. Inside, 12 years of documentation, illegal terminations, hidden settlements, everything Richard thought would stay buried. She smiled thinly. He taught me to be ruthless. Now I'll teach him what that costs. We arranged a settlement meeting that Thursday at the downtown Marriott. Richard arrived 15 minutes late, still pretending he owned time. He didn't. His once perfect suit hung loose, his hair was gray at the edges. His lawyer spoke first. Mr. Hale is offering $1. $2 million and full benefits continuation. Margaret leaned forward. Plus a signed statement acknowledging the mishandling of her termination. Mutual non-disparagement. Richard hesitated, then signed. His hand shook just enough to tell me everything I needed to know. When he slid the papers toward me, our eyes met. He didn't speak, but the words were clear. You destroyed me. No, I thought. You destroyed yourself. That evening, Margaret sent me security footage from the night before Richard's resignation. He was alone in my old office, talking to the empty air. I gave her 5 minutes, he mouthed again and again. She took everything. He was wrong. I didn't take anything. I simply stopped giving. The next day, Eleanor called. She was calm, almost serene. I filed for divorce this morning, she said. At the country club. During his board meeting. Maximum witnesses. She sipped her latte like it was liberation. It took me 35 years to see who he really was. But watching him destroy you made it impossible to pretend anymore. By the time we hung up, the Hale dynasty had ended itself, a slow implosion disguised as legacy. 6 months later, Phoenix Digital wasn't a startup anymore. The warehouse gleamed with new floors, proper lighting, and laughter. 40 employees, 12 clients, and a $75 million valuation. Emma, Logan's daughter, worked on homework in the corner while her father built APIs. Priya's parents visited with homemade food and blessings. The space felt alive, like the opposite of everything HaleVertex had stood for. Nicholas came once more, looking thinner, softer. He handed me divorce papers and a quiet apology. I'm in therapy, he said. I should have walked out with you that day. I nodded. You should have. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He just signed the last page, and I signed mine. The past, officially closed. Later, Margaret showed me Richard's updated LinkedIn profile. Independent business consultant, it read. The address was a strip mall office above a tax prep service. His latest post, leadership means making hard choices. 3 likes. 2 were bots. Do you feel bad for him? She asked. No, I said. He's just a footnote now. That Friday, we held our all-hands meeting under strings of warm lights. The twins presented their new security framework. Marcus announced another client win. Gerald, our janitor-turned-morale officer, raised his coffee mug. To 5-minute miracles, he said. Everyone laughed. I looked around the room, my team, my family, my proof that dignity scales better than fear, and thought about that Tuesday when Richard gave me 5 minutes to pack my life. 5 minutes that ended a career. 5 minutes that exposed a dynasty. 5 minutes that built an empire of our own. When reporters later asked what the story of Phoenix Digital really was, I told them this. It's not a story about revenge. It's about refusal, to break, to beg, to stay small. Because sometimes, 5 minutes is all it takes to remember who you are.